Wednesday here in Stewart, and I have a couple more Meet Your Candidates on the show, and I'm very excited to have them both. The first one that we have up is Miss Phyllis Waters Brown from Indiantown. And speaking of Indiantown, we have a couple wonderful marinas out there, Indiantown Marina, as well as Indiantown Marine Center. And remember, with the good folks out there with Indiantown Marine Center, they have affordability and availability, no gate fees, no markups, no wait for a haul out. So we got a lot of great things in Indiantown. And Phyllis Waters Brown is running for Group 2 in Indiantown Village Council. She's an Indiantown native and a registered nurse and community activist whose values were shaped through the examples and expectations set by her grandparents and parents. First settling down in Indiantown in 1941, her grandparents came from Georgia as seasonal workers. They briefly moved their family of 15 to public housing in a small farming community in western Palm Beach County before returning in 1947 to Indiantown's Booker Park community, where they raised their children in the church, instilling their work ethic, showing a compassion for others, and prioritizing an education. Phyllis's first educators were her own parents, Leroy and E. Thelma Waters, married for nearly 60 years, who exemplified her grandparents' values of hard work, community caregiving, activism, and social justice, regardless of race, religion, color, or nationality. The eldest of 7 children growing up in Indiantown, she lived the daily values imparted by her parents and grandparents. She attended Booker Parker Elementary School before transferring to Warfield Elementary at her parents' insistence, as one of the first 3 black students to integrate Warfield. She went on to attend Indiantown Middle School and graduate from Martin County High School, leaving Indiantown to pursue an education and start her nursing career. With an active duty military spouse at the time, she raised her 3 children and a cherished granddaughter in different locales, experiencing different perspectives and growing even more appreciative of her own upbringing. At the same time, her roots and family were the anchors that kept bringing her back home to Indiantown. Now home to stay, she began organizing community-wide cleanups that involved iTown, MyTown, a recognized nonprofit that goes beyond roadside trash pickups to tend to the yards and homes of the elderly and infirm before code enforcement officials come calling. Working in cooperation with the village's Parks and Recreation Department, the organization also sponsors free monthly music concerts on the last Sunday afternoon of the month to help build Indiantown's sense of community. She's also active with Martin County Black Heritage Initiative, founded in 2020 by Lloyd Jones and Anthony Anderson, to restore black cemeteries and record the oral histories of black residents, the historical guidepost for the next generation. An employee of Martin County's Council on Aging as Director of Day Health Services, she helped establish Indiantown's own Kane Center at Big Mound Park to enrich the lives of those aged 55 plus with specialized activities, socialization, and nutritious meals to help care for her community. She also continues to provide free CPR classes to church congregations simply for the asking. The values that shaped her upbringing continue to spur her to tackle new challenges, including giving a voice to the voiceless in the community and ensuring that the promises made to citizens during incorporation are kept, which she says is best accomplished by holding a seat on the Indiantown Village Council. In her spare time, she and her husband, Howard L. Brown, who brought 3 bonus children and 9 grandchildren to their marriage, enjoy their family and friends, making new memories, traveling to new places, and always coming home to Indiantown. Welcome, Phyllis Waters Brown. It's so wonderful to have you here in the studio. I'm excited that you're one of the candidates in Indiantown. So, tell us a little bit. She's going, oh boy, here I go. This is absolutely fantastic. But, what can you bring to the city council that's currently missing? Or the village council?
That we're missing?
Yes.
Less government spending, which will keep our taxes lower. A sense of maturity that I think is also missing on the council. And I have a history of serving without being on council when you have people on council that do not serve.
I think that's a very good statement and a true statement. So often you see every elected official, they all get applauded and woohoo every time they enter a room, but there's a lot of people sitting in that room that do so much more for the community.
Exactly.
And I appreciate that you see that, because I
think
see
we need
that
to
as well.
lead by example.
Yes.
And
yes.
that's what I think is missing.
And that is absolutely fantastic. And you had brought up some other things, too, that you've seen since incorporation with Indiantown that, maybe the direction hasn't gone the way as anticipated. And what kind of changes have you seen that you want to maybe say, look, let's step back. We need to grow this or reinforce certain issues?
The division that we have in the village we need to stand back just a minute and take a look. We've never had the division that we have right now.
And by division, you mean racial division.
Racial division.
That's a big one. From afar, I noticed as well. But you live there every day, and it's a shame that it's happened because you have roots in this community, as I read from your bio at the introduction, that go back decades and decades and decades, almost a century at this point.
It's unnecessary what we're doing right now. In the 60s, when we integrated Warfield, it wasn't this bad. Um, you're no better than me. I'm no better than you. If you cut all of us, we bleed red. So if you make your voices heard and someone is there to listen, which is not necessarily the case right now, but if you have someone there to listen, make your voice heard and see what happens rather than choose the obvious one. Your color is different than mine. Your language is different than mine. Does it really matter?
We're all people, like you said, we all bleed red. We all put our pants on the same way in the morning. So I like that point of view. There's a lot of changes going on in Indiantown.
Yes,
And,
sir.
you know, there's good growth versus bad growth. Indiantown as a whole today doesn't look much different than it did when it was incorporated. So how do you see the growth moving forward? What are you looking for?
You have to remember that we're very young. We went from years of no growth, no anything, and now we have people wanting to come in to help us to grow. But we as council need to be in a position where we can lead them the way we want them to go for growth. The houses that are being built now, Terra Largo, people having issue with, we wanted homes. So, but we didn't tell people how we wanted our homes to be or what we wanted it to be like. We just needed rooftops. So now we're getting rooftops, and Terra Largo is doing its best to keep prices so that the majority of people will be able to afford them. Everybody won't be able to afford them, but everyone can afford them now, even without that. But we need homes so that people can have their own, have ownership of home, and 4 and 5 families are not in one house. That's not healthy.
No, it's not. No, it's not. What about commercial or industrial wise in Indiantown? I think that's really was the big push, at least from my perspective, why Indiantown was incorporated. They wanted to have some control of what businesses were coming in because there were some good businesses that were looking to relocate to Indiantown, and the county voted no. So this started the incorporation. What do you see on the business side of things for Indiantown?
We have quite a bit of commercial business coming in, which is really good. Joe Walsh was just annexed into the village. I see that as a win-win because of how he does his business, which is clean. So the waterways will remain clean. So there's really there's nothing else on the waterways that can be built there because Scott Watson has the other marina. So between the two of them, the waterway is taken care of and is taken care of safely. So I think that part is good. We have corporate businesses coming in to the park, which used to be the juice plant.
Okay.
So we have businesses coming there. We have other businesses on the other streets that are coming in. So little bit by little bit, I think we're growing the right direction for that.
And I'll say all those things bring good jobs, good paying jobs, and
Good
more
tax
people.
base.
Good tax base. That's right. You need that as well. You don't want to lay all your eggs in one basket, as they say. I come
Very
from
true.
a farming community. And I have to shout out, too, with the Indiantown Marine Center and Indiantown Marina. You're absolutely right. They have a lot of boating industry there, and there's a lot to grow. And that's one of the things I got to shout this out, nothing to do with your campaign, but Indiantown Marine Center is going to be on the air June 19th, and we're going to be talking about how the bridge still impacts the boat business and the marina business that's west of the bridge. Even though it's projected to be raised somewhat, it's still not nearly enough for these businesses. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But speaking of annexation, there's about 15,000 acres of ag land around Indiantown. What is your opinion of annexation?
As long as it benefits both the business and the community, I'm good with that. But it depends on who is wanting to annex in. And I think we'll have more people wanting to annex in as we grow. But if we have the infrastructure to support those, that would be good. If it's a win-win for the village and the people who are wanting to come in, like, for example, Joe Walsh, that was a win-win. He gave acreage to the school to build a marine center there so that we'll have people who want to work on boats, know how to work on boats. So that's jobs, that's training, that's another tax base. That's great.
Right.
So for that portion, I'm good with. But it's a one-on-one as you come in. Now it's difficult to get people to come to Indiantown to service our needs. I needed someone to look at my stove or no one comes to Indiantown, but they will go to Vero.
Right.
I give them 2 years and they'll want to come to Indiantown. Let's see if we will want to have them.
Indiantown youth, what is your biggest concern for the youth that are growing up in Indiantown right now?
We've forgotten about them. The youth are our future. If we don't take care of our youth and mind our youth, we won't have an Indiantown as we know it. So we need to take care of our youth and our older generation. But I think our youth are not as well taken care of as we could do for them.
You're absolutely right. Amen to that. They are the future, and it's always good to get them involved. Do you see any programs that need to be expanded for the youth in Indiantown to give them more to do after school, or is it adequate to what's available right now?
It is not adequate, and I think we're working on that right now for sports and activities like that. But I also think we need to get them involved in government. We need to have them prepped to run for council, volunteer on boards, volunteer for committees, to see how the government works, to see how the village works. If they're involved and they're visible, we're more apt to have a very good future.
Again, we're speaking with Phyllis Waters Brown. She's running for Indiantown Village Council Group 2. And Phyllis, one time there was an Amtrak station in Indiantown, and do you believe there should be a push again for another passenger rail system or station, as well as expand the airport for jets and helicopters?
I do. I remember riding the train from Indiantown, and that would be awesome. Indiantown was supposedly the seat of the county years ago. We've got railway, we've got water, we've got straight 710 going directly to the glades, to the ports. We have the airport that we can bring up. So we have all ways of getting out and around. A train would be awesome. That would get some of the cars off of the roads. That would free up some of our roads for that. And it's an easy, accessible way to get from point A to point B. So that would be awesome to do.
Indiantown is one of the most strategically well-located areas in the state.
It is.
You are on the Intercoastal Waterway.
Yep.
You have an airport.
Yep.
And you have rail going through there.
Correct.
And you have major highways coming through.
Correct.
What more do you need?
A great tax base, slow growth, a community that understands and appreciate what we actually have right now, not what we're going to have, what we actually have right now.
I'm going to bring up a couple issues that have come up through the past through my different interviews with Indiantown.
Okay.
One of them is your water plant. I don't even know what's going on there right now, so maybe you can fill us in a little bit. And what's the future for that? Because I know that capacity is a huge issue right now, and that's going to affect development.
Capacity is a huge issue. When the village was first incorporated in 17, the first council, along with the village manager at that time, had the foresight to hire Joe Capra of CapTech.
Yes.
So that they could build a water and wastewater plan. So they had a master plan, which allowed us then for Kevin Powers and Josh Kellum to go to legislation to get money for us. And I think it was like $48 million that we can use for our water and wastewater. We are working on replacing pipes as of now. We have 8 wells. We only have 2 functioning wells, and we're working on 1 now. So we have a good way to go, but we're getting there. And we invite people in as we can supply infrastructure for them.
Another huge issue, and it's put to bed now, but kind of what is your thoughts on that, was the fire station issues. That was the previous council. They wanted to have their own independent, fire stations and fire personnel. What is your opinion? She's shaking her head, folks. No, by the way.
Yeah, that was not a smart move. I am a paramedic. I was an EMT and paramedic on the back of a truck, or a rig as we call them. Not a smart idea. Martin County offers services for us that we can't get anywhere else. I understand the thought behind having an independent company, but as a new EMT paramedic, I understood I was shaping my teeth as I go out on different trucks and different rides. I'm learning the skill. You get the book knowledge in school, but you don't really learn until you're on the back of that truck. I
Makes
don't
sense.
need anybody learning on us. I need you to know. Our population requires you to know the health of our company, our corporation and companies and communities require that you know what you're doing, not that you're learning. So they will learn from us. They will leave us because we can't afford, nor can we promote them where they want to go. And so what are we doing? Just a training site for people? We deserve better than that.
Spending in the village. In the past, too, there's been a lot of even trips and things for village council members. Where do you stand on reviewing the spending and of what expenditures for the village?
It needs to be in the budget, not haphazardly we decide to do something one day. If it's not in the budget for us to do, then we need to come back and take another look at that. We've had spending that we don't know where the spending went, and it wasn't smart spending. But we're learning. We are a new incorporated village.
Another issue was transparency. I know Scott Watson with Indiantown Marina had a really tough time getting public records request from the village of Indiantown.
Made no sense. No sense.
Transparency is key.
But everyone appears to have a different definition of transparency. Like a glass without a film on it is transparent. But if there's films and smudges on the glass, it's not really transparent.
That's a good way to put that. I like that. We're speaking again with Phyllis Waters Brown, and she is running for Indiantown Village Council Group 2. There's also been talk in the past about a new village hall. Very expensive. It was jokingly called the Taj Mahal. So where does that stand, and what is your position on that?
It stands that property is on the market for sale. When we purchased that property, we, meaning the village, purchased that property, we paid $500,000 more than the value of that property. That was just the property. Then we'd have to put the village in hock or loan to afford the building. I wouldn't do it with my own money. Why would I do it with money that the taxpayers gave? Not a good idea.
Not a good idea at all. Not a good idea at all. With your nonprofit, you're addressing this somewhat, but there's been issues with code violations in the past with Indiantown where people are like, wait a minute, we need help here. I can't afford this. Codes have changed. There was something about trimming bushes. This is in the past. I mean, are code violations an issue in Indiantown? And if so, what do you see to address maybe helping citizens have time to rectify?
We're doing some of that with iTown, My Town, but it requires education. It requires someone to take the time to show them, and also helping them move to a different location. When you have so many people in a house, where else are they going? What are they going to do? Waste management will never be able to keep up with the waste. So we have to educate them, and we have to make things available for them. Not give, but make it available for them.
Phyllis, what are the things you love most about Indiantown? I know this is going to be easy for you. I might have to cut you off.
I love the people. I love the potential that Indiantown presents. I don't know, it's always been home. When you come to Indiantown, it's like you've gone to an oasis for me. You don't have all the concrete buildings, it's not concrete jungle. You have the trees, you have the water, you've got any place you want to go. And I love the safety. They're locking your doors. I can leave something in my car.
That's fantastic.
I can. Indiantown has so much to offer. It's a gold mine waiting to be discovered by other people, but they can take their time. We can wait
I think
for them.
that's going to happen sooner rather
They
than
can
later.
take their time.
It's
We're
starting
good.
to, yeah, the word's
We're
starting to
doing
get
well.
out.
We're doing quite well on our own. But yes, it's good.
So, as coming to the village council, if you're elected, what are your top 3 priorities?
To keep the promise that we made when we became incorporated, which was manufacturing jobs would go to the residents. We need to have training for them so that they have to be trained anyway. Whoever you bring, they'd have to be trained. So why can't it be some of the residents? The new tax revenue that we get, we want to use it wisely by making places safer and healthier to live. And I want to be a strong voice for the citizens of Indiantown, and I can only do that if I'm voting into council.
Well, I believe that you will be, and you come from a long line of folks, and your mom, Thelma Waters, God rest her soul. By the way, that is one regret I have to this day is I was not able to get her on the show, and it wasn't that I wasn't able. It's just time flew, and all of a sudden the time passed by, and I regret that deeply. She was an amazing person.
Yes.
So, with Indiantown and people are excited that you're running. What can they do to support you? Do you have a place where they can reach you? How can they find out more about you or invite you to come speak to their groups?
The website will be up. It's electphylliswatersbrown.com. That will be up on tomorrow. I don't know who doesn't know my phone number, but I'm not putting it on the air. They can always call, but volunteer to wave your flag. Allow me to put yard signs in your yard. Come to my kickoff, which is the end of this month, the 30th, at 6 o'clock at Indiantown Middle School.
Fantastic.
I can take donations. You can help me by going door to door to knock on doors. I can use a lot of help.
And folks, that's what it's about with these candidates. It does take the village to support somebody to get them through, and word of mouth. And I think the petition signing time's over.
Do petitions for me.
You don't even have to do it, so you're good there. But that time has passed. But the support, ground support, word of mouth, and that means everything to candidates. So, Phyllis Waters Brown, Indiantown native. Her family's been there almost a century, folks, and you know her. She's been there, and you volunteered in the community and have started the nonprofit in particular, I Town, My Town, just to help people long before even running for office. So I was surprised you didn't run sooner, but it's because you're a reluctant candidate, but you want to help your community as you have been for a long time.
I think if anyone wants to tell me what they would like to see happen in the village, what are your visions for the village? You live there, you need to have a voice. I'm here to listen.
Amen. Transparency is everything. Again, Phyllis Waters Brown, Group 2, Indiantown Village Council. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.